Flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Balsamo.
Here.
Mr. Battaglia.
Here.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin. Dr. D'Elia. Mr. Fraginals.
Here.
Mr. Scotty.
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Here.
And Mr. Ferrero.
Here.
Oh, Mrs. Quirk, I'm sorry.
We now come to the portion of our meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow comments on reports, resolutions, and all school-related matters. Our board regulations 0167 allot 20 minutes for these communications. Each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you try to stay within this requirement. Speakers may speak more than once, only after all others wishing to speak on the topic have been heard. All statements will be directed to me as the chairperson, and no one may address board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Comments concerning district employees and/or students will not be responded to. Please remember to state your name and address each and every time you address the board. For questions where the board may not have immediate answers, the board will take information and respond to it at an appropriate time. Does anyone have any comments?
Hi, everyone. My name's Erica Doherty. I live at 435 Prospect Street. And in some ways, I'm just sort of catching up to all of this, and I can't attend the budget meeting tomorrow, so I just wanted to ask some questions after going through some of these things. One of the things I was hoping you could speak about is what is the board's strategy in equitably distributing reductions across schools and programs, just so to ensure that no one group of kids or programs are experiencing undue burden? Do you want me to give you the other questions right now, too?
Yeah.
Okay.
The board strategy, and they've informed me that we are working through top-down vantage points to consider the impact to all students, and it is our strategy to look at efficiencies, the way we schedule, the way we use resources to make no cuts that impact students.
Okay. So then more specifically, I see that there's about $5 million in reductions in the general instruction and the support services category. Do those mostly represent staffing eliminations, or could you speak a little bit about what those likely would be?
Yes, so depending on where the final budget lands, we're looking at, and this is really part of the discussion for tomorrow, but we're looking at inefficiencies in materials, IT, all across the board. Some is staffing, but some staffing is due to inefficient use of staff, restructuring the admin team, things of that nature.
Sure. I can understand that. And then I think a comment I have is seeing that there's a reduction proposed for speech OT, special services, and things like that. And I don't know if that potentially represents just a single position. I don't know if we use a contracting agency for those services, but that was something in particular that felt concerning, trying to make sure that all of our kids who really need those get those, K through 12. And then just a smaller logistical question is looking at the extended day cuts. I don't know how extended day is funded other than how parents pay for it. And so does that mean most likely parents should anticipate just increases in those fees, and might they be significant?
I think extended day runs via an enterprise, which is kind of separate from the general budget that you're looking at. I think extended day will be something we'll look at. We've traditionally had a small increase from year after year. We have very low extended day cost. I wouldn't anticipate a significant increase, but I do think there is a year-to-year increase associated with extended day that will go through. I don't see extended day being impacted. It's not a general fund number. It's kind of self-funding itself.
I misinterpreted before and after school.
Okay.
Item line.
Before and after school is a different
Separate
things
thing.
like clubs and stuff
Oh,
like
okay,
that.
gotcha. That's probably for older kids. Okay. Okay, then I think I can't attend tomorrow, but I look forward to hearing more about just a specific strategy. I think one of the biggest things, certainly my greatest self-interest is in my own children, but as a part of the community, really wanting to make sure that no burden is felt in any particular place unduly, and especially for our kids who really need the most support.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments?
Hi, good evening. I'm Jessica Gutline. I live at 23 Oak Crest Place here in Nutley. And I've attended the last meeting and I've been watching online. At first, I want to say that I'm in agreement with all of the recent testimonies calling for the board to keep class sizes small, keep our amazing teachers in our schools, and meet the needs of our special education students. But tonight, I'm going to focus my testimony on the needs for us to maintain the quantity and quality of our school security. And I really hope that school security is not being discussed for potential cuts, but needless to say, I feel the responsibility to share my grave concerns on behalf of my children and the children of Nutley. I'm going to share some disturbing facts, and I wish we didn't live with these growing concerns, but as you know, these are the realities that we face. I'm sure you all heard that last Wednesday, a student who came to a Wisconsin middle school with a gun was neutralized before he could even enter the school and hurt anyone else. One of the first officers at the scene was a school resource officer and prevented any other tragedies from happening. A school officer on site. All of our schools, each and every one of our schools must have quality security. I hate that I feel that I have the need to remind you that the tragedy in Uvalde and Sandy Hook were both elementary schools. This year alone, there have been more than 18 school shootings, 4 on college campuses and 14 on kindergarten through 12th grade school grounds. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, 1 in 20 US adults experience serious mental health illnesses. 17% of youth aged 6 to 17 years old experience a mental health disorder. Now, I'm not trying to say that mentally ill individuals are dangerous, but what I am saying is that people who want to do harm to our children at schools are not mentally well. My children go to Spring Garden Elementary, and our school resource officer knows my children's names, and I have no doubt that he would protect my children at the time of an emergency. This whole situation has made us question the quality of education for our children. And please do not make us question the safety of our children in Nutley schools. Thank you.
May I answer, Mr. President?
Sure, thank you.
So I agree with a lot of your points. Our security team here, our footprint we create is a combination of wonderful security resource officers that we have in district. I'd like to thank them at this time. I also think there's a lot of mental health programs running in district that add to the security. I agree. They contribute to our culture and to our daily atmosphere, and you see what they're doing, not only in security-related matters, but also decreases in discipline events, as well as chronic absenteeism that the data supports. I can confidently say here that next year's budget, we will not decrease our footprint on security.
That makes me feel so much better. You don't know how many times I try to time myself on how quickly I could get to my Spring Garden school, just in case I heard anything happening there. I didn't grow up with security guards at my elementary school, but I understand and know the need for ours today in this day and age. So I thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments?
Hello, gentlemen of the board, ladies of the board. It's Emma Cortese, 206 High Street. I just want to make a little statement about a bill that was passed in the Assembly. On April 15th, the New Jersey State Assembly approved a bill, S2, to help school districts that have seen cuts to their state aid since 2020-2021 school year to raise levies, that is the taxes, up to 9.9% without voter approval. That is, they want to effectively remove the 2% mandated cap. Now, this has just passed the Assembly. It has to go to the state Senate. I personally called our state senator, Timberlake, at 973-395-1166 to urge her to vote against this bill. Can you speak just broadly to how the shortfall in our budget may be, and the anticipated budget coverage within the 2% mandated cap, because this looming bill to abolish that cap to 9.9% without voter approval. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen definitively, but it's out there. So can you give us some broad statements regarding the 2% cap
So with regard to
to the budget?
the budget, so,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, we're limited within that 2% cap.
Mhm.
I think what you just were referring to is districts that had their state aid cut.
Yes.
Okay.
Does Nutley fall? This is what
We,
question I'm asking.
it's, state aid is different. We have not had our state aid cut last year or this year.
Okay. So effectively, if this passes, will not impact Nutley at all. Is that correct?
It doesn't appear it will,
It
based
doesn't
on what
appear
you
it
just
will.
said, but I mean, of course, we'd have to look at the language of it, if it passes, but it hasn't gotten to that point yet.
I do believe it has been restricted to those school districts who've had their state aid cut since 2020, 2021. So if Nutley doesn't fall within that category, then is that correct, Mr. Benyon?
Correct. We've seen increasing state aid over the past 3 years that I'm aware of right now. Going back, I think that's 4 years. I'm not sure about
Uh-huh.
that, but yes, no, we've seen an increase in state aid. This past year, we received $3 million more in state aid.
That's terrific. Forgive my ignorance on that. It was something that I hadn't even thought about recently until I read about this and thought, well, it hasn't been addressed outright, so I brought it to the board. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I just so you're aware, I mean, this Board of Education over the years has stayed within that 2% cap.
Mhm. Yes. Oh, yes, I
So-
have been aware of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any comments?
Hi, how are you? I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah,
Okay.
could you just, if you can you just speak into the microphone? Because it's hard to hear up here sometimes if you don't.
Can you hear me better?
I can, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm Dr. Pranali Hoyle. I live in 19 Lake Street. Both my children go to Spring Garden School. I just have really high levels of concerns with the amount of money that's missing from, our children's education, essentially, along with the fact that we've had infrastructure problems across the schools. Now there's money missing, and the biggest cuts that are being made are to our special education population based on what you've put out so far. So I would just like further clarification. As somebody who's also worked for the district in the past, I already know the limitations that exist already. So the further cuts that are being made, how is this going to effectively implement the IEPs and provide high level, quality level of education to our special ed population?
Thank you, Pranali. First, I state the money is not missing. We have mismanaged money with revenues and expenditures, but the money has been spent toward our programs just in an inflated fashion. Secondly, what you're looking at, especially with the speech comment before, was preliminary budget where we must submit numbers to the state in March. Since then, we have heard public comment. We have adjusted those numbers to include no cuts to special education, no cuts to speech, no cuts to OTPT, which we presented tomorrow with the revised numbers.
Okay. And then once these adjustments are made, I'm not a finance person, so I won't speak to that or act like I actually know what that even means. But what I would like to say is, how are we further developing the school buildings, and what are we doing to add, for example, a simple playground for our children during recess time, as research shows that some of these things are important and lead to a better mental well-being of all children. And our recess programs don't provide that level of education. There's already cuts to paraprofessionals. How are you adjusting these finances to improve the school systems overall?
Do you want me to answer? I'm sorry about that. I can say, in looking at where we are, we have created a operating budget that exceeds the revenues coming in, so we do have to make cuts. I think we are doing the cuts strategically and looking at some inefficiencies that have been built in over time, and moving back to operating procedures that make sure our teacher-student interactions are very high, our administrator-student interactions are very high from the top down. I think we need to think through where we put our money so that we can plan for infrastructure renovations. I know the community, or I've heard the community want changes in playgrounds or buildings or trailers, and I think that is still possible with appropriate budgeting. And we hope to take the first step with that in right-sizing the budget for next year.
Okay.
Yep. And so tomorrow night is our budget presentation. So I would suggest if you can make it tomorrow night, that's when we're going to present the budget for the 24-25 school year.
And will that be published, shared with the public?
Yes,
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I look forward to
it's
that.
going to be online, but we're also going to do a presentation here.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick Frey, 66 North Spring Garden Ave. I have more fact-finding for tomorrow night. So the budget that's online currently that was generated April 30th, is there going to be a new updated one based off of Saturday's meeting and tonight's meeting? So that this is not the final one that you're proposing for tomorrow. There's more to come, correct?
The preliminary budget is the setting of the budget. Actually, on March 20th is when we put it in. The county then approves it.
Okay.
Based on the tax levy set then and the allocations of money. Districts, the board can change the tax levy, and districts can reallocate money. And you can continue to reallocate money to submissions. So anything that's discussed tomorrow can go on to go between the lines. That's the point of the public hearing, to hear the public based on where the money is in the final budget. And then there will be a board resolution that speaks to the submission of the budget.
Okay, great. And then the facts, the FAQs that are online, those go back to, I think, April 17th. Are there more that have been released since then, or those are the only ones that have been released so far?
That's what we have so far,
Yeah,
but we are
okay.
working on additional ones to put out.
Okay, for tomorrow or just in general?
I don't believe it's going to be ready for tomorrow, but we will have them out at some point in the next week or so.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come up, have a comment? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public citizens hearing portion of the meeting? Okay, any old business to come before the board? Any new business? Whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters exempt from public discussion pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education recess to close executive session at this time to discuss personnel, anticipated litigation, and contracts. Be it further resolved that the results of the discussions will be made public by inclusion on the agenda of a subsequent meeting of the Board of Education, or when the reasons for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exist. No action will be taken. Motion to adjourn into executive session. Okay, thank you, everyone.